Today's rappers live in mansions and drive luxury cars that cost more than most houses. It's insane. But here's what most people don't realize. Back in the early 1980s, hip-hop was exploding as a cultural movement. But the artists creating this music were broke. They were financially disenfranchised, getting only a tiny fraction of the money their music made. Legends like Grandmaster Flash were pulling in relatively modest paychecks, while music executives grabbed the lion's share of the profits. The system was rigged against the artists who built the culture from nothing. But one group from Hollis, Queens, was about to flip the script forever. This is the story of how Joseph Simmons, Darryl McDaniels, and Jason Mizell became the first millionaire rappers in history. The trio came together in Hollis, Queens, in the early 1980s. Joseph Simmons was already spinning records as DJ Run, working with Curtis Blow, but here's the secret weapon. Run's older brother was Russell Simmons, who managed Curtis Blow and had deep industry connections. Russell pushed them to create something completely different from what everyone else was doing. This was strategic genius that would define their entire career. Most early rap music sounded like disco and funk. It was designed for parties, with live bands and melodic arrangements that made people want to dance. Run DMC said no to all of that. They stripped everything down to the bare bones. Their sound was raw, sparse, and confrontational. Instead of live musicians, they used drum machines like the Roland TR-808. The beats hit hard with tons of empty space that put all the focus on their powerful back and forth vocal delivery. This was the birth of new school hip hop, and it was a complete break from everything that came before. But they didn't stop there. They did something that seemed crazy at the time. They brought hard rock guitar into hip hop music. Remember, this was when hip hop and rock were seen as totally separate worlds. But Run DMC didn't care. In 1984, they released a single called Rock Box that changed everything. It had aggressive rock guitar solos mixed right into the hip-hop beat. This wasn't just a creative experiment. It was a strategic masterstroke. By blending rock and rap, they opened up their music to a whole new audience. Their revolution wasn't just about sound. It was about how they looked too. Earlier rap acts dressed in flashy, costume-like outfits that looked like something a rock star would wear. Run DMC rejected that completely. They wore what they already wore on the streets of Hollis: black fedora hats, black leather jackets, thick gold rope chains, and white Adidas Superstar sneakers without laces. This was their neighborhood's street style, turned into their stage uniform. Their look wasn't created by some record label marketing team. It was authentic, a real representation of their community. When fans saw Run DMC, they saw themselves. The Adidas sneakers and black hats became symbols of belonging to something bigger. Fans weren't just buying records, they were joining a movement. In 1984, they released their first album, simply called Run DMC. This record was their mission statement. It had socially conscious tracks like Hard Times that talked about poverty and the difficult reality of their community on sucker MCs. DMC rapped about going to St. John's University, promoting education. These weren't just party anthems. They were authentic voices speaking about real life. On December 17th, 1984, something historic happened. The album was certified gold by the Recording Industry Association of America. That meant it sold 500,000 copies. And here's the big deal. This was the very first time a rap album had ever gone gold, ever. It was concrete proof that hip-hop wasn't just some passing trend. It was a commercially powerful force that could move serious units. This was the very first time a rap album had ever gone gold, and it proved their new model was working. It's crazy to think how many artists today owe their careers to this moment. Who do you think is the most influential hip-hop group of all time? Let us know in the comments below. And if you're enjoying this story, make sure to subscribe. Their second album, King of Rock, came out in 1985. The title said it all. They doubled down on mixing rock and rap even harder. It became the first rap album ever released on compact disc, which showed that the music industry was starting to take hip-hop seriously. And on February 18th, 1987, it was certified platinum, 1 million units sold Run DMC became the first hip-hop group ever to go platinum. They were the undisputed commercial leaders of the entire genre, but nothing could prepare the world for what came next. In May 1986, they released Raising Hell. This album was a commercial juggernaut that destroyed every record hip-hop had ever set. It became the first multi-platinum hip-hop album ever, eventually selling 3 million copies. The album hit number 3 on the Billboard 200. That was unimaginable for a rap group. It also hit number 1 on the R&B and hip-hop chart. This wasn't just a successful rap album anymore. It was one of the biggest albums in the entire world. 2 songs from Raising Hell tell the story of their genius strategy. First was Walk This Way. Their collaboration with the rock band Aerosmith, producer Rick Rubin pushed hard for this collaboration, and it turned out to be marketing brilliance. The music video showed the 2 groups performing in studios next to each other, then literally breaking down the wall between them. That visual metaphor was powerful. Rock and rap coming together. The song exploded, hitting number 4 on the Billboard Hot 100. That was the first time a hip-hop act ever cracked the top 5. It peaked higher on the pop chart than the R&B chart, which proved it was reaching a brand new audience. Rock radio stations that never played rap suddenly had no choice. The song also revived Aerosmith's career. This was the outbound strategy, going out to capture new territory. The other major single was My Adidas. This song was completely different. It wasn't engineered for crossover success. It was an organic expression of who they were, a heartfelt tribute to their favorite sneakers. In the lyrics, they defended their style against stereotypes. The song came from a genuine place. Russell Simmons reportedly suggested they make a record about their sneakers, and they turned it into a cultural anthem. It hit number 5 on the R&B and hip-hop chart, proving how much their core fans loved it. This was the inbound strategy, making music for the people who were already with them. There was one more piece to their mainstream takeover: music videos. In the 1980s, MTV was dominated by rock and pop acts. Run DMC became the first rap group to get their videos played on MTV. Their video for Rockbox in 1984 was a landmark moment. Suddenly, their street-centered visuals were playing alongside Van Halen and other rock giants. This normalized hip-hop for mainstream, suburban audiences who had never been exposed to the culture before. By the time the Walk This Way video came out, MTV viewers already knew who Run DMC was. Now, here's where the money really started flowing. The success of My Adidas wasn't just chart numbers. It sparked a sharp increase in Adidas sneaker sales, especially on the East Coast where Run DMC's influence was strongest. This was pure grassroots consumer movement driven by the group's cultural power. Their management team, led by Lyle Cohen, saw an opportunity. Cohen invited an Adidas executive named Angelo Anastasio to a sold-out Run DMC show at Madison Square Garden on July 19, 1986. During the performance of My Adidas, Run and DMC told the 40,000 fans in the arena to take off their Adidas sneakers and hold them in the air. 40,000 people, all holding up their 3-striped sneakers. It was undeniable proof of their influence over consumer behavior. After the show, the group recorded a video where they shouted directly at the company, "Give us $1 million." Adidas couldn't ignore that demonstration. In mid-1986, they signed a historic endorsement deal worth $1.6 million. This was the first sneaker endorsement deal ever given to a non-athlete, not a basketball player, not a football star, musicians. It was also the first major corporate endorsement for any hip-hop act in history. A global corporation officially recognized that the culture born on the streets had become a dominant force in the marketplace. The deal boosted Adidas superstar sales to 500,000 pairs in the United States. That year alone, the company quickly rolled out an entire Run DMC branded clothing line for the music industry. This deal shattered the glass ceiling. It created a new revenue stream that didn't exist before. Run DMC proved that cultural capital could be directly converted into corporate dollars. Artists no longer had to rely only on record deals. They heavily favored the labels. They could build brands so powerful that corporations would pay judges for association. This set the precedent for every sneaker deal and brand partnership that came after. But the Adidas deal was just one part of their financial empire. They built wealth to multiple channels. Their massive tours were huge moneymakers. The 1986 Raising Hell tour featured other hip-hop acts like the Beastie Boys and LL Cool J. In 1987, they launched the Together Forever tour with the Beastie Boys. Both groups were at the absolute peak of their power, with albums that had sold over 3 million copies each. These tours generated substantial income at a time when touring was one of the primary ways musicians made money. Their most lasting financial innovation was their logo. Their bold, blocky Run DMC lettering became more than just a band name. It evolved into a globally recognized symbol of hip-hop culture itself. The true scale of this became clear in 2016 when the group filed a trademark lawsuit. Court documents revealed that the Run DMC brand has generated over $100 million since the 1980s. $100 million. They had successfully turned temporary musical fame into a permanent intellectual property asset. A vintage My Adidas promotional t-shirt from the 1980s is valued at $13,000 today. They also tried their hand at Hollywood. In 1985, they starred in Crush Groove, a movie loosely based on the early days of Russell Simmons and Def Jam Records. The film opened at number 2 at the box office and grossed over $11 million. However, their 1988 follow-up film, Tougher Than Leather, was a commercial failure that they had to finance themselves. It was a reminder that even the most powerful brands face risks. All these revenue streams matter because of the context. Standard record contracts in the 1980s were brutally unfair to artists. Run DMC became millionaires because they built a business around their music. The Adidas deal, the arena tours, the merchandise empire gave them financial power that was virtually unheard of. Run DMC created a blueprint that changed music forever. They proved 4 things that every successful hip-hop entrepreneur since has followed. First, product market fit through authenticity. They created a sound and style that perfectly reflected their audience's reality. Second, market expansion through strategic crossover. They used collaborations to break genre barriers and reach mainstream audiences without losing their core fans. Third, leveraging influence for corporate partnerships. They demonstrated their cultural power and turned it into million-dollar deals. Fourth, intellectual property creation. They built a brand so iconic that licensing became a permanent wealth generator. They were the first to earn gold, platinum, and multi-platinum certifications. They were the first rap group on MTV. They were the first to land a major non-athletic endorsement. In achieving these firsts, they gave the corporate world undeniable proof that hip-hop was an economic powerhouse. Run DMC transformed what it meant to be a successful rapper. They showed that artists could be entrepreneurs, that cultural movements could become global brands, and that a career born on the streets could lead to the boardroom. They drafted the economic blueprint, followed by every artist, entrepreneur who came after them. The Kings from Queens didn't just open doors, they built an entirely new building for generations of artists to create empires inside. And that's the blueprint that changed music forever. What's your favorite Run DMC track or memory? Let us know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.